So ngayon, gagawin naman natin, instead of us finding the sensitivity points, parang ganon, or yung parameters na magpapa-change sa atin or magkakos ng decision reversal, let's try to tabulate some or do some models that we can actually consider dito. So there are times wherein may mga certain projects tayo na mahirap nating i-allocate yung kanyang factor in considering a certain project, diba? So the value that is difficult to define because it is used in a variety of ways. So ito yung mga recognized na hanggang ngayon is sinasay pa rin na hindi natin siya nakakategorize. For example, yung economic value, the moral value, aesthetic value, the social value, the political value, religious, and then the judicial. So ito mga to parang more on the abstract ideas, diba? And then can you really give values to this or monetary values? Diba parang napaka-imposible naman na bigyan mo siya ng parang, diba? Parang, okay, so DDS ako, I have a 0 value, or Dilawan ako, I have a value of 1. So parang hindi naman ganun yun, diba? Say for example, religion, so ako ay Christian, so meron akong 5 points or baka 5 points sa langit, pero pag atheist, mga negative 5 points sa langit. So hindi natin pwedeng bigyan yun ng monetary value dito sa setting natin, diba? So yun, how do we deal with those? So dun papasok yung tatawag natin na decision analysis models. So ito yung yung isang certain scenario na nangyari kay isang engineer to, diba? Kay Mary Jones. So, si Mary Jones is a 22-year-old graduate engineer and fortunate enough to have 4 acceptable job offers in writing. So, ito yung mga decisions ito yung mga factors na kinoconsider niya, no? Social climate of the town in which she will be working, opportunity for outdoor sports, starting salary, potential for promotion and career advancement. So, without any question, we can say that yung starting salary natin is a monetary value. But can you really relate, or can you really give monetary values to social climate of the town? Or can you give the monetary value for the opportunity for outdoor sports? So, diba, itong mga gantong parameters is actually really difficult to give values. That's why we'll try to force somehow a monetary value equivalence in this case. So ito yung sinasabi natin na mag-a-assign tayo ng mga equivalent values ranging from, let's say, 0 to 100, and then from this 0 to 100, so at least meron tayong certain parameters, or meron tayong certain quantity na that can be attributed to these parameters na hindi talaga kayang bigyan ng monetary value. So these useful models presented later are single dimension. So itong models na to, we call this the compensatory, because change in the values of a particular attribute can be offset by or traded off against opposing changes in other attribute. So yun. So, what if naman meron tayong tinatawag na full dimension analysis? So, sabi dito, if our attributes have been chosen to characterize the alternatives under consideration, the predicted values for all our attributes are considered in the choice. So, if a metric is common to more than one attribute, we have an intermediate dimension problem that is analyzed with the same models as a full dimension problem would be. So we refer to these models as non-compensatory kasi yung trade-offs ng attributes natin ay hindi pwede. So, di ba sabi natin sa compensatory, so pagka nagkaroon tayo ng offset dun sa any attribute, magkakaroon tayo ng changes dun sa kanilang mga values na we have assigned. So for any non-compensatory, so we have to expect na hindi tayo allowed magkaroon ng trade-off sa ating mga attributes. So itong attributes natin na tinatawag, ito yung mga let's say mga social value, ganon. So yun yung mga attributes natin na sinasabi. So we start with the non-compensatory models. So ito yung mga typical na dimensionality nung ginagamit natin sa non-compensatory model. So in short, wala tayong trade-off dito ng ating mga attributes. So first one is the dominance. When we say that one alternative is better than the other, considering that we have the same respective attributes, so we could say that this certain alternative dominates the other one. So yun yung ibig sabihin lang nun. The concept of dominance is still not a basis of the selection of this best alternative. Kasi technically, dominance is still a very subjective parang point of view in this case. Kasi syempre, what if your attribute is like your preference in color. So, syempre, you would be selecting yung mas gusto mong kulay. Pero technically, that is still a subjective point of view. So, dominance is really not used in just a standalone model to select the best alternative. So, the next one is satisficing. So, by definition, satisficing is referred to as the method of visible ranges, which requires the establishment of minimum or maximum acceptable values for each attribute. So, again, yung ating attribute is something na hindi natin nabibigyan ng monetary value. So, this minimum, maximum value, so sometimes available siya, sometimes not. So, for example, available yung ating maximum and minimum value. Let's say yung aking kinonsider is yung hours na nakakapag social media ako, nakakapaglaro ko ng games. So, I'll be accepting the job only when I can have, let's say, 2 hours of, at least 2 hours of gaming, o ganun ba? And then, at a maximum of, let's say, 5 hours. So, other than that, so beyond 5 hours and then below 2 hours, so I will not be accepting those parang offer of job. So parang ganon. So ibig sabihin nun, sa satisficing, I'm allowing to have yung parang certain range of maximum and minimum values. And kapag wala na dun, so usually we disregard those alternative na wala na dun. Unlike dominance, na meron lang tayong best option dito, and yung parang hindi nagdo-dominate sa ating mga sa ating mga choices. Sa satisficing, pwede natin parang ile-level sila, no? So, if it's within this visible range, so posible pa rin na ma-consider yung alternative na yon. Unlike dominance na if you're just using dominance, then we could just say na ito na yun kasi this is the best option. This dominates the rest of the alternatives. Kaya sabi nga natin kanina yung dominance, parang sobrang hirap niyang i-gamitin as basis for the decisions under uncertainty kasi this is a very subjective matter in the person's point of view. And then we can now proceed with the disjunctive resolution. So sabi dito, the disjunctive method is similar to satisficing in that it relies on comparing the attributes of each alternative to the standard. So the difference that the disjunctive method evaluates each alternative on the best value achieved for any attribute. If an alternative has just one attribute that meets or exceeds the standard, that alternative is kept. In satisficing, all attributes must meet or exceed the standard in order for an alternative to be kept in the visible set. So in short, in disjunctive method, we have this kind of thinking na although this attribute is hindi siya pasok or hindi siya okay dun sa maximum or minimum range na binigay natin, dito naman sa attribute or sa second attribute niya, okay naman siya. So, ano ba yung example nito? For example, yung alcohol, ganito, alcohol. So, yung isang alcohol natin is, naglagay ako ng satisficing dito sa alcohol na to. Ang tolerable amoy ko lang na mabango is, let's say, from 20 to 40. Kunwari, ganun yung ating naset na value. From 20 to 40. Ngayon, itong isang alcohol na to, nag-exceed siya, let's say, 50. So, sobrang tapang ng amoy. Pero, yung cleansing power naman nito, nung isa, is mas okay siya dun sa isa. So, therefore, I can consider this attribute na hindi lang ako nagko-consider ng isang attribute, but rather, I'm trying to evaluate din yung sa other attributes niya. That's why I can keep this certain alternative because yung kanyang attribute in this case na hindi naman yung other but yung certain parang disinfecting power niya is beyond the other one. So in short, wala akong tatanggalin sa dalawang ito kasi yung dalawang ito is by disjunctive resolution, okay silang dalawa. Nagkakaroon sila ng parang exceeding dun sa properties nung the other one in terms of the different attributes that they have. So ito, mas medyo light itong disjunctive resolution, unlike satisficing na kapag hindi agad pumasok dun sa range na gusto mo, then i-eliminate mo na sila agad. So ito, parang paluwag tayo ng paluwag, starting from dominance, then from satisficing, and then disjunctive resolution. So the last one is the lexicography. So this model is particularly suitable for decision. Ito lahat is lahat ito is non-compensatory models. So you can solve using dominance, you can solve using satisficing, you can solve using disjunctive, or you can solve using lexicography, or you can solve ng lahat to sabay-sabay. So pwedeng ganun yun. So according to lexicography, we are judging certain attribute that is more important than the other one. Kaya nga dun sa disjunctive resolution kanina, may mga alternative na hindi natin pwedeng disregard kasi it exceeds the other attributes or it dominates the other attribute. But in lexicography, we try to assign certain values for a certain attribute wherein, let's say, this value or this attribute is much more important than the other one through quantitative values. So, pwede natin yung gawin. Kaya, in lexicography, nawawala na tayo ng mga deadlock or mga ties natin kasi nga, we're considering the attributes as attributes na hindi sila magkakapantay ng significance. So, that's it for the non-compensatory models. So, ibig sabihin lang noon, again, for non-compensatory models, so walang kinalaman yung other attributes dun sa other attributes. So, technically, kung anong meron dun sa isang attribute, dun lang yan, dun tayo magbe-base. Hindi tayo pwedeng mag-jump into other attributes wherein pwede tayo magkaroon ng trade-offs. Unlike dun sa non-compensatory models natin na gumagamit tayo ng iba't ibang scales or yung mga iba't ibang models natin, di ba? So, in compensatory models, we're trying to give a value for our attributes. So, ito yun, para siyang lexicography, pero ang ginagawa natin is, ini-scale natin lahat ng attributes in just let's say 1 to 10 scale o 0 to 100. So, kaya nga ito tinawag na compensatory models kasi yung isang attribute, it can compensate for the other kasi nagkakaroon nga tayo dito ng mga scaling eh. So, therefore, allowed yung trade-offs natin kasi pwedeng mag-compensate yung isang attribute sa other one. So, again, for non-compensatory, so halimbawa, sinabi natin na yung color, hindi siya pwedeng mag-compensate dun sa mismong parang ergonomics ng isang material. So, pwedeng ganon for non-compensatory models. Pero for compensatory, so yung ergonomics nun, pwedeng mag-compensate dun sa color. So, ganon yung nangyayari dito sa ating models. And we're always talking about the attributes here na hindi natin kaya talagang i-monetize. Pero, for compensatory models, we're trying to scale this. That's why nabibigyan natin sila ng common monetary values. So, usually, for non-dimensional scaling, so, this is a way to standardize the attribute values. So, kino-convert natin sila. So, non-dimensional values should all have a common range from 0 to 1 or 0 to 100. So, yun yung una natin. And, syempre, kapag naman meron ng scale na, let's say, meron ng value. So, hindi natin kailangan gawin ganun. So, all of the dimensional attributes should follow the same trend with respect to desirability. And the most preferred values should be either all small or all large. And this is necessary in order to have a believable overall scale for scaling the best alternative. So, halimbawa, gusto nyo siyang i-scale. So, dapat kung halimbawa, ang pinakagusto nyo is 100 yung pinakagusto nyo. So, dapat lahat ng cases, 100 yung pinakagusto. Then, yung pinakaayaw nyo is nasa 0 scale. So, hindi pwedeng yung ayaw nyo is, halimbawa, sa attribute na ito, ayaw nyo to. So, maging 100 siya. And then, dun sa isang attribute, kung ayaw mo naman to, nasa 0 sa siya. Hindi pwedeng magkaiba yun ng scaling. So, the rating is like this. The worst outcome minus the outcome being made dimensionless divided by the worst outcome minus the best outcome. So, yun yung ating rating. And the designation of the worst outcome and outcome being made dimensionless changes depending on the problem. So, yun. And then, ito naman yung isa is additive weighting technique. So, ito, additive weighting provides for the direct use of non-dimensional attributes and the results of ordinal ranking. The procedure involves developing weights for attributes. So, ito para din siyang para lang siyang lexicography, gano'n. Nagbibigay tayo ng weights. And this can be multiplied by the appropriate non-dimensional attribute values to produce a partial contribution for the overall score for a particular alternative. So, para tong ang ginagawa yung expected value, kung remember nyo yun. Pag nakapag-assign tayo ng certain weights dito sa attributes na to, we can multiply that and then yung total nung lahat nung yun, yung average, so kaya ang average weighted siya. So yung highest na yun, we could consider that the best alternative based on the weights that we've already assigned. So ano ba mga pinagkaiba ng mga to? So let's try this problem. Ito medyo mahaba-haba to, no? Ito kanina yung engineer na gumraduate din. So Mary Jones, the engineering graduate whose job offers were given in a table, has decided based on comprehensive reasoning. So, syempre, meron siyang subjective part dito rin, no? We have to account that. To accept the Sigma position in Macon, Georgia, and having moved to Macon, Mary now faces several other important multi-attribute problems. Among them are renting an apartment versus purchasing a small house, and then what type of automobile or truck to purchase, and 3 whom to select for long overdue dental work. So, yung mga problema niya, no? In this example, we consider the selection of a dentist as a means of illustrating non-compensatory, ito yung full-dimensional and compensatory single-dimension models for analyzing multi-attribute decision problems. So after calling many dentists she found through online websites, Mary finds that there are only 4 who are accepting new patients. They are Dr. Molar, Dr. Feelgood, Dr. Whoops, and Dr. Pepper. So the alternatives are clear to Mary, and she decides that her objectives in selecting a dentist are to obtain high-quality dental care at a reasonable cost with minimum disruption to her schedule and little or no pain involved. So, yun na yung parang ano niya, sineset niya. So, if you remember yung satisficing, parang dito siya papasok, no? Yung minimum disruption to her schedule or little or no pain involved. So, parang yun na yung nililimit niya. Yun yung parang sineset niya na tolerance. And in this regard, Mary adopts those attributes to assist in gathering data and make her final choice. 1. Reputation of the dentist. 2. Cost per hour of dental work. Available office hours each week. Travel distance. Method of anesthesia. And notice that these attributes are more or less independent in the values of one attribute and cannot be predicted by knowing the value of any other attribute. That is why this problem is applicable for the non-compensatory models kasi hindi nagmamatter yung isang attribute dun sa other one. Mary collects data by interviewing the receptionist in each dental office, talking with local townspeople, calling the Georgia Dental Association, and so on. A summary of information gathered by Mary is presented in the other table. So we are now asked to determine whether a dentist can be selected by using dominance, satisficing, disjunctive resolution, and lexicography. So, gagawin natin sila ng lahat ng case. So, tayo na sa non-compensatory models. So, for the dominance, tabulating each and comparing. So, ito yung cost per hour. For Dr. Moller, meron tayong $50, Feelgood $80, Dr. Whoops $20, Peppers $40, and then the method of anesthesia, so vaccine, acupuncture, hypnosis, laughing gas, driving distance 15, 25, 30, weekly office hours 40, 25, 40, 40, and then quality of work, excellent, fair, poor, good. Meron tayong mga parts ito na in the ordinal scale, meron ding quantitative, meron din namang nominal lang. So, syempre, by virtue of dominance, you just have to select the most dominating alternative in each attribute. So, yun lang yung gagawin natin. So, for the first attribute, we're considering the cost. So, syempre, cost ito, the dominant cost is, of course, ang best value natin dito would always be the lowest cost, and then yung worst value is always the highest cost. So, from this, we could say that the best cost comes from Dr. Whoops, while the worst cost comes from Dr. Feelgood. Okay, so that's it for the first attribute. The second one, we have the method of anesthesia. So, itong methods of anesthesia, actually, this is kind of difficult to address. Bakit? Kasi una, wala tayong measurement of pain dito. Paano ba measure yung pain dyan? So, wala naman. And the next one is that this one is very subjective to the person. That's why you have to emphasize na when it comes to the decision in dominance where you have to rate something na hindi monetary in value or ordinal in level, you have to specify na your subjectivity with those. So, in this case, sabi dito, Mary has decided that vaccine is a better option than the laughing gas, which is a better option than the acupuncture, than the hypnosis. So, yun yung preference niya. So, from this, we could just tell that the vaccine will be prioritized rather than the rest, and then yung hypnosis would be our worst choice. Okay? So, the next is we have the driving distance. Syempre, kung driving distance lang din, mas gusto mo yung mas malapit. So, the best option is 5. And then, ano ba yung worst option dito? So, yung worst option dito is, it is supposedly be 30. So, hindi lang dito na highlightan. So, highlightan natin kunwari. So, ito, 30 yung ating worst option. So, for weekly office hours, so, syempre, mas gusto mo yung dentist na laging mas available, di ba? So, for the 3, Dr. Molar, Dr. Whoops, Dr. Pepper, lahat sila is 40 hours per week. So, technically, they are the best options here. And then, yung worst is 25 lang. So, baka maliit lang tong Dr. Feelgood. Kaya, hindi siya masyado nag-ooperate. And then, finally, we could evaluate the quality of work. Syempre, the best option would always be the excellent work rather than the fair good. And then yung poor, syempre, yun yung pinaka-least natin na ayaw natin na makuha, diba? So, that's the worst service or the worst value. So, from this, anong sunod natin gagawin? So, we've already evaluated kung ano ba dito yung mga dominant and then ano ba yung worst for each attribute. So, if we want to try the dominance check, we will try to evaluate each of them. Dr. Moller versus Dr. Feelgood. So, this is the first battle. Ganon. Dr. Moller against Dr. Whoops. Okay? And then Dr. Moller against Dr. Pepper. So, yon. And then we have Dr. Feelgood against Dr. Whoops, Dr. Feelgood against Dr. Pepper, and then Dr. Whoops against Dr. Pepper. So, yan yung anim na pagbabracket natin ng dominance check. So, again, ganito yung gagawin nyo. Once you have a table, you have to select the worst and the best option. And then, ang gagawin mo, after that, you have to compare each one of them. So, tigigisa mo siya i-compare. So, for the cost, which is better, Molar or Feelgood? So, for this cost, Molar is better. For Anaesthesia, better din si Molar. And then, better. So, ito, for Molar versus Feelgood, better lahat siya. So, from that idea, tatanggalin mo na agad si Feelgood dyan. Kasi parang, ano na siya eh. I mean, dito lang sa evaluation na to, parang expect mo na hindi mo na gagamitin or matatanggal agad si Feelgood sa evaluation mo kasi mas dominant si Molar talaga kay Feelgood. So anyway, pag naman meron tayong Molar versus Whoops, so worse, better, worse, equal, better. So meron ba tayong dominance in this case? So the answer is no, kasi hindi natin kayang evaluate by just dominance kung alin ba dito mas dominant. Kasi we have to make sure na dapat better siya sa lahat ng aspects to say that Molar is better than Whoops. So, ganun lang yung case. And then, Molar versus Pepper. So, ito hindi rin natin pwedeng sabihin na mas okay si Molar kasi hindi to lahat better. So, ganun din kay Feelgood versus Whoops, Feelgood versus Pepper, and then Whoops versus Pepper. So, using just dominance itself, we could just say na evaluating all of these doctors, you might be removing or you can actually remove Feelgood in our analysis kasi based on dominance, mas okay talaga si Molar kaysa kay Feelgood. So technically, parang tatlo na lang talaga yung pipiliin mo. But in dominance check, it is still not possible for us to select the best doctor in this case. Kasi we couldn't agree with Molar versus Pepper, Molar versus Whoops, ito, kung sino ba talaga yung mas okay pa dun sa kanilang tatlo. So yun, kaya sabi natin before nga sa dominance check na hindi talaga ito enough para magsabi kung alin yung best option in this case. So yun, and then yun, to check for dominance pairwise comparisons for each dentist set of attributes must be inspected. And then sabi dito, Dr. Molar dominates Dr. Feelgood, so Dr. Feelgood will be dropped from further consideration. So yun, with dominance, it is not possible for Mary to select the best dentist. Kasi nga, hindi natin kaya evaluate dun sa tatlong tira kung sino yun mas dominant sa kanila. If ever, Molar versus Feelgood, lahat to better. Molar versus Whoops, lahat to better. And then Molar versus Pepper, lahat to better. So, tapos na sa atin using dominance check na si Molar yung ating pipiliin. But since nag-no tayo dito sa iba, so it's not yet finished. So, what is the next step in that case? So, you can do dominance check, pero hanggang dyan lang ang dominance check natin. Now, we can proceed with the next, which is the satisficing model. So, ano ba yung meron sa satisficing model na to? So, sabi natin, di ba, nagsaset tayo ng mga limiting range, maximum or minimum value. So, syempre, itong mga minimum, maximum value, ikaw dapat na mag-set nito. Yung si Mary, anong pangalan ito? Mary Jones? Mary Jones ba to? So, siya dapat yung magsaset nun. So, ito yung sinet niya, no? For the minimum acceptable value that she has for the cost, so, wala namang minimum, pero ang maximum lang na gusto niyang bayaran is, syempre, $60 lang. And then, for the minimum acceptable value, acupuncture lang yung gusto niya. So, from this, minimum na yung acupuncture. So, technically, tatanggalin mo na yung hypnosis in this case. Kasi gusto niya dapat at least acupuncture lang. And then yung maximum acceptable, syempre, kahit ano dyan, okay lang sa kanya. And then driving distance, so minimum niya is wala, pero syempre maximum is 30. A weekly office hours 30 to 40, and then quality of work is good to excellent. So parang dito pa lang, you can see na kung good to excellent yun, parang hindi nakasama dito itong fair at saka itong si Dr. Whoops kasi uh, yun, hindi sila pasok sa good to excellent, diba? So anyway, let's try checking all these unacceptable alternatives na column. So you will be doing this for the satisficing method, minimum, maximum, and then unacceptable alternatives. So if the cost has a maximum value of $60, so kung mapapansin nyo dito, 60, sino ba yung nag-exceed? Si Dr. Feelgood. So since si Dr. Feelgood is na eliminate na kanina, so wala tayong matatanggal na alternative dito kasi pasok naman sila. So next, methods of anesthesia. So acupuncture lang yung ina-accept niya starting from that. So yung hypnosis hindi natin i-accept yon. So basically si Dr. Whoops based on anesthesia would not be included. So yun si Dr. Whoops. And then driving distance, so wala kasi lahat naman sila is within the maximum acceptable limit. And then weekly office hours 30 to 40. So remember yung si Dr. Whoops I think is 25. Pero 30 to 40 lang yung ginagamit natin na range. So, the rest naman is pasok pa rin kasi si Dr. Feelgood has already been eliminated from dominance check. And then, for the quality of work, so si Dr. Whoops ulit is matatanggal kasi si Dr. Whoops ang work niya lang is poor. We're only considering good and excellent here. So, therefore, based on satisficing feasibility ranges, we could simply eliminate Dr. Whoops because there are two attributes na nagpatanggal sa kanya, which is basically the methods of anesthesia and then the quality of work. Basically, if we'd be looking at these feasible ranges and then the disjunctive resolution model, si Dr. Whoops naman, meron naman siya ditong okay na parts based on the dominance. Let's say for example, tingnan nyo, $20 lang yung cost niya and then 5 lang yung driving distance niya. So, technically, by disjunctive resolution, we couldn't actually tell whether or not we could remove someone here kasi nga, those 4 doctors have their own parang expertise in their certain attribute. For example, si Dr. Moller, okay siya sa anesthesia, sa weekly hours, and then quality of work. While Dr. Pepper, okay siya sa weekly office hours. Though isa lang yung kanya, pero you couldn't just ignore that fact. Kasi sinet mo siya na okay dun sa'yo. So, pwede pa siya under the disjunctive resolution. So, that means na using disjunctive resolution model and then going back to assuming na wala tayong tinanggal, hindi talaga tayo pwedeng mag-eliminate from any one of them. Kasi meron silang other attributes na okay naman and then yung iba is worse dun sa attribute na yun. If ever you couldn't pick out from the dominance, then you have to expect na dun sa disjunctive, you might not also provide someone na parang you could actually pick out from as the best one. So, parang ganun yan. And then lastly, since hindi natin siya ma-identify talaga, though we only have 2 of them na lang talaga na pwedeng natin pagpilian based on satisficing and then dominance. So, let's apply lexicography in this case. So, let us rank yung ating order of importance ng ating mga attribute. So, this is the ranking of attributes. So, quality is greater than the cost, which is greater than the anesthesia, which is greater than the office hours, and which is greater than the distance. So yun, this ranking is based on Mary Jones' perspective. So you couldn't just think about, okay, so for any problem, quality should be greater than cost. So no, it depends on the problem, it depends on the person doing that. So you have to expect na when you want to solve for this certain non-compensatory models, you have to emphasize na you will be ranking these certain attributes, you will be giving or assigning values for the maximum or minimum acceptable values for that certain attribute. So, ganun yung gagawin nyo, especially when you're dealing with lexicography. So, you have to compare this. Again, para siyang dominance. After ranking, magko-compare ka naman. If cost is greater than anesthesia, so cost is more important than anesthesia, quality is greater than cost, so cost is greater than the distance, cost is greater than the office hours, so ganun yung ating magiging mga paired comparison. So based on the attribute, yung number of times on the left, which is based on the ordinal ranking. So, yung ating quality is 4. So, kasi, ibig sabihin nun, parang 4 na beses siya nag-appear na mas okay siya. So, yon. And then, yung ating cost would be 3, anesthesia would be 2, office hours would be 1, and distance would be 0. So, ito, pwede mo na actually hindi yan din gawin actually. Kasi 'di ba para nag-evaluate tayo ng greater than, pero actually pwede din na natin yung gawin. You can just count the number of attributes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then since we have 5 attributes, so 5 minus 1 would be 4. So that would be your highest or most significant or most important attribute. So in this case, that's quality. So 4 yun, then cost would be 3, so minus 1 lang tayo na minus 1 up until yung distance maging, or yung list maging 0. So you can also start with the list being 0 and then you assign 1, 2, 3, 4. So pwede rin ganon yung ating level. So since we already illustrated, ito yung ating lexicography based on the ordinal ranking, so we can now tabulate. So ito yung rank 3, 2, 1, 0, 4, and then you can actually rank them based on the quality of work that they have. So pag quality of work, we have molar is greater than pepper, is greater than feel good, and then is greater than whoops. So whoops is greater than molar. So ganon, gagawin natin parang i-rank natin sila from the best to the least. So ganon siya mangyayari. And then based on this, you could just see na molar is greater than pepper. So from this lang, we could just say na based on the quality of work, you would be picking molar kasi siya yung pinaka-okay yung quality of work, and then that's the highest priority that we've given based on the lexicography. But if ever molar is equal to, let's say, pepper, so pares sila ng quality of work, pares lang excellent. So you would be shifting to the cost kasi yun yung sunod, 4, 3. That's your second priority. So whoops is greater than pepper is greater than molar. So from this, pepper would be chosen because if they are equal on this first quality of work, so para silang excellent, in this case, pepper is greater than molar, so you would be picking out pepper. Whoops kasi hindi na yan kasama dahil technically based on dominance, based on satisficing si whoops, ano ba? Basta based on the satisficing and dominance, so natanggal na siya before. So, yun. Kaya, you would be just selecting this pepper and molar. Actually, pwedeng din nyo na naman sila isama, itong whoops and feel good. But sabi nga natin, we're doing the analysis on each model. So, technically, dapat sama natin lahat in this case. So, yun. Though, in this case kasi, yung ating satisficing, parang ang hagawa natin is, hindi natin sinama dito si feel good. Even though based on the analysis, dapat kasama pa rin talaga siya kasi ginagawa rin sila individually. Pero kasi importante kasi yung satisficing after ng dominance kasi talagang sa dominance hindi ka talaga pwedeng mag-conclude dyan, literally. So if ever naman yun sa dominance na so hanggang doon na lang yung ating evaluation, we can't conclude. So itong satisficing, you would be writing here, Dr. Feelgood will be eliminated, Dr. Feelgood will be eliminated. So yun, ang nangyari kasi para magkadugtong ang dominance at saka itong satisficing, and even this yung disjunctive is hindi siya kadugtong. So anyway, so gano'n ang ating models. So fully na-guess nyo yun. Ulitin natin na for dominance, you just have to pick out yung worst and best and then just compare individually to them. So pag better, yan yung pipiliin natin na option. Pero dapat it should be better sa lahat para masabi mo na it dominates the rest. Now for B, yung satisficing, so you have to make sure na there are minimum, maximum acceptable value, and then you eliminate alternatives na nag-exceed doon. So kung may natirang isa dito, then you should be picking out that certain dentist na if ever. And then sa disjunctive resolution model naman, so as long as there are no attributes na nag-exceed yung isang let's say yung dentist dun sa other one, so given na lahat is let's say lahat nung isa is nag-exceed, so walang other attributes na mas okay yung isa, so you can eliminate those parts para lang din siyang satisficing. It's just that acceptable yung mga values na kino-consider natin dito sa disjunctive resolution. And then yung lexicography, you just have to rank yung most important part here, and then just use that certain parang pinaka-important attribute mo to rank them, and then you'll be picking kung sino man yung best dun sa rank na yun. And if ever they have the same rank, so you move to the second most important attribute, and then so on. So yeah, those are the decisions done, or those are the models that you can use when we deal with decisions under uncertainty. So medyo qualitative to, or up until some ordinal level of scale. So ganun yung ating process. But how about if we want to solve for number 2?